Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Roth Motor City Mad Mouth. Glad to have George Eichorn, my Monday partner, on board for the Sports Exchange, that is.
Hello. Good to see you again, Scott.
Good evening. It'll be before long. I'll be taking the track up I-75, seeing you face to face, Mr. Eichorn.
Yes, that should be fun. Good luck.
And doing double duty is Rick Curti. Boy, a long time no see. 45 minutes ago, Mr. Curti. My goodness, a long time.
Oh, yeah. How you guys doing?
Good. All right. Well, so now we got Rick Curti, who's been on the Sports Exchange an awful lot with the two that were the original Sports Exchange back in the 1970s and 80s. What an interesting trio tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back a long time. Scott, me and you at the old stations in Detroit area, WBRB and WCAR, and before that, WXYZ. So, yeah, we've got a great show here, and looking forward to talking sports with you and Rick.
Looking forward to it, too. And, folks, just, this threesome will be on. Our goal is to at least do it once a month together. I really enjoy working with Rick on many levels. And, George, well, you and I have a history. Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of history, the Miami Marlins made history by naming Kim Ng as the general manager. And I'll tell you what an unbelievable hire for the Miami Marlins, George Eichorn.
Yeah, it sure was. It was groundbreaking, no question about it, Scott and Rick. She becomes the first female, of course, general manager in Major League Baseball history. And I think maybe the first female in the major pro sports general manager as well. And she comes very highly rated, of course. She's worked in some great organizations. She's worked on Major League Baseball staff itself in New York City. And Kim has got a big job there. But boy, oh boy, Derek Jeter, it looks like he made a really, really bold and smart move, giving Kim the keys to the Marlins front office. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's a great hire. I mean, it's just it's groundbreaking. I think Kim is going to be an absolute great general manager. I think that she's really has broken that wall over there, and has inspired a lot of young females who want to go into sports, who are probably like, the man's quote unquote man's world, and now she's like, hey, if she can do it, why can't I? So now she's the first female, but I think she's also the first Asian GM as well. So I mean, she's just made history all over, and we had more history with Kamala Harris, first female vice president, and Jeannie Buss was the first female owner to win a world championship. So women are really making an impact not only in sports but in the world.
Yeah, when you think about Kim Ng, she worked with Joe Torre in three places. She worked with him with the New York Yankees, again with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and of course with MLB. And she spoke highly of Joe Torre as somebody that she could call on and turn to anytime she wants. And Don Mattingly, the manager of the year. George, what are your thoughts about the Don Mattingly winning the manager of the year before we get the connection with Kim Ng?
Yeah, Scott, I know you spoke highly of the job he's done in Miami. I know that you were close to the scene there. You were on many of his Zoom calls and press conferences, and he just did a terrific job. I mean, nobody really picked Miami to do much this year, and kind of coming out of nowhere, but he's got the talent now, and he's got the brains to be a great manager. He is already a great manager. But well-deserved honor for Mattingly to get that honor this year. And I think the future bodes really, really well for Jeter, Ning, and Mattingly and the whole Miami organization right now. This is really setting them on a really fast course, hopefully, to get to the World Series.
Well, Kim Ng also worked with Don Mattingly with the Dodgers. So you want to talk about a situation which is a seamless transition. You've got it here. You got Jeter with Kim back from 98 to 2001. And, of course, you got Kim with Don Mattingly out in L.A. So familiarity you've got a lot of that dynamic with this trio for sure. And the Marlins ownership, the upside here is just incredible. It just is.
It really is, and like you said, this is a great combination they've got, and like you said, that's very important. They know each other. They've worked with each other before. They've had this connection in their other jobs, if you will, their other teams they were at, and that can do nothing but bode well for their partnership in the front office, if you will, and on the field in Mattingly's case.
You know, Rick made a great point earlier tonight about she didn't get handed this job because of who it's being handed to. She got it with her 20 years worth of experience, starting from an intern to moving through the ranks and then going into the MLB office. So everything Kim's had to do, she's had to work really diligently to get to where she's at. No opportunities are handed out in MLB.
Not at all. Not at that level, especially. And my gosh, I mean, you know, you talk about breaking that glass wall. I mean, she's shattering that wall. And hopefully, like you said, Rick, earlier, I mean, it'd be a thing for, like you said, the young women of today to strive to get into this kind of management. We're seeing it. We're in the officiating. I love to see the female officials in the National Football League. The NBA has had female referees for a long time. We've got assistant coaches now in the NBA that are females, and hopefully we'll get our first female head coach in the NBA pretty soon. But yeah, it's great. It's great for the sport. It's great for MLB, and obviously for Kim herself, because she deserves this. She deserves this opportunity.
Yeah, if there's ever a female coach in the NBA, Becky Hammon would be at the top of my list and probably a lot of people's list, right, Rick?
Absolutely. I mean, I would think, you know, there's some teams that are, you know, looking for a head coach. You know, her would be probably next season. I would be surprised she's a head coach somewhere, you know, when there's a vacancy. So, I mean, you know, who knows? Maybe she can come to Charlotte and be the next coach of the Hornets. I would love that, you know. So it would be great to see that happen. I think she will be a head coach in the NBA very, very soon. And so, I'm looking forward to it.
Ideally, if there's a place I'd love to see Becky Hammon become a head coach, it would be the San Antonio Spurs when Greg Popovich steps down, since she's under her tutelage. But we'll talk about that in a later broadcast. The focus right now is on Kim Ng. I mean, what can you say? She's the most level-headed individual on the planet. And the hour I got to know her on our media availability call, the way she talks about analytics and the roots and how she was brought up, and how she's not only looking to be an inspiration for women, but she talked about Martina Navratilova and Billie Jean King being two of her motivations. And George Eichorn, you and I know about the Bobby Riggs Kool-Aid, don't we?
We sure do. And Billie Jean King, of course, my association with her goes back to when she started the World Team Tennis. And we had a team in Detroit, as you remember, called the Detroit Loves. And even though Billie Jean wasn't on our team in Detroit, she was another pace setter and groundbreaker. And Bobby Riggs, you know, said, I'm going to beat her. And that famous Astrodome matchup between he and her, and she cleaned his clock. Billie Jean, you know, and granted, he was older, I know, but still, you know, talk about a made-for-TV event that really put women's tennis on the map. And what can we say about Martina Navratilova? Obviously, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, female tennis players in world history. You know, and two great, outstanding women. Both of them are. So you're right, Scott. Those two ladies obviously are right at the top of everybody's list as far as female athletes and female administrators in the sports.
Well, we had Bobby Riggs on our show with Ron Cameron too.
Yep.
So, pretty candid individual, Rick. I got to tell you, he really is.
He seems interesting. I remember the whole Battle of the Sexes game. I think they made a TV movie for it. Ron Silver played Bobby Riggs, and I think Holly Hunter played I think Billie Jean King. It was a while ago, but I remember seeing and then watching it on ESPN, and he was a character, Bobby Riggs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He sure was.
I think the thing that impressed me about Kim Ng is, despite all the different challenges she had to get where she's at, she always looked at self-evaluation as a way to get her through the adversity, and how she just kept battling and battling and never took anything for granted. And lo and behold, she persevered to get where she's at. So once again, hats off to the Miami Marlins for making this hire. And the way it was widely received all over the country, as well as the sports world in general, not just baseball, but all over the sports world. And Derek Jeter was bold enough to make the move. And bear in mind, I think when the smoke settles and the dust dies down, and you have the honeymoon period is over with, Kim Ng will be looked at as one of 30 general managers. She will.
I don't question you. I think so too.
Gender aside, it's fresh. It's great that a female's there, albeit she's certainly not your average female, very bright, but she'll be one of 30 general managers. And again, the only difference is that she has Derek Jeter and Don Mattingly, two of the better baseball minds, right there with her. It's not like she's in this fight by herself. Knowing her, she'll analyze everything she has. And the one thing she emphasized today was every decision that we make will be a collaborative effort. And she stressed the importance of being a pillar in the community. And there's no question that she's very humble about the opportunity, but she knows there's a lot of pressure and a big magnifying glass attached to that, for sure. So,
absolutely.
So, all right, well, let's go on to the New Orleans Saints. Quarterback Drew Brees was injured. He has a collapsed right lung, multiple rib fractures on both sides of his chest, and Jameis Winston is most likely to start. Brees could be out 2 to 3 weeks. So, Rick, lead with this one.
Well, when I first heard about it, I just all my prayers go out to Drew Brees and his family. I mean, that's very scary, especially when you have a collapsed lung. That's very, very scary. Drew is not he's not getting any younger. Neither am I. So, but it's unfortunate. And I just hope for a speedy recovery for him because maybe broken ribs and they're very painful. But the one I'm concerned about is a collapsed lung. That's very that could be very, very, very serious. So all my prayers go out to him and to his family, and hopefully makes a speedy recovery.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rick and Scott. I mean, Drew is just a true champion of the sport. He's been at the top of his game for a long, long time, and even at his age, he just continues to go in there week in and week out and performs at such a high level. And what a great man he is and a good person. And so, I echo Rick's comments. My prayers go out to he and his family, as well as all the fans of the New Orleans Saints. Let's hope for a speedy recovery. I know it could take more than 2 to 3 weeks. We'll just have to wait and see. But he obviously was on his way to another good, solid year this year with his, it'll be interesting to see how the Saints can respond under their new quarterback and how they can still stay in contention. But the fact of the matter is that Brees is a big champion and he is a good athlete. So the fact that he's in such great shape hopefully will help him out and get through this stretch of injuries that he has suffered, like you said.
Yeah, chest injuries are nothing to laugh about, let alone a lung issue. And, take it for somebody that knows that lungs are what they are. Unfortunately, my mother had some of hers taken out as she battles her COPD, and she's in tough shape, but we'll leave that where it's at. But the lungs are what they are. When you have collapsed lungs, then you're dealing with some bigger issues. Right now, so our prayers definitely go out to Drew Brees and his family and for a speedy recovery. But let's look ahead now. Jameis Winston, it looks like the most likely candidate to start, brought in there to sit behind Brees, resurrect his career a little bit. So, you know what? For the man who threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions a year ago, he's had a chance to, he's on a very team-friendly contract. Now Jameis has a chance to either ultimately become the heir apparent to Drew Brees or make an impression for himself with some more game film. What does he learn from Sean Payton and company? How do you think that's going to work out, Rick, about Jameis Winston under center for the Saints?
Well, I hope he does very well. I mean, Jameis can be a very, very great quarterback, but like I said, it's like bipolar. You know, he throws for 30 touchdowns, throws for 5,000 yards, but throws 30 interceptions. I mean, that's a stat that's just like it's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You know, it's a great stat, but then it's not. So I hope he does really well. I like Jameis. Um, I really thought he could be like a major star in the NFL, and unfortunately, some personal issues have kind of gone the way. But I think a change of pace, a location, and I think going, especially with New Orleans, with a great a great coach like Sean Payton, and to sit on the bench with a clipboard and watch Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I think this is going to be a great learning experience for him, and who knows? I mean, he could be like Teddy Bridgewater. You know, he can just come out and just play lights out. And Teddy's doing really well in Charlotte right now, and so hopefully that could resurrect Jameis's career. And if he can't be with the Saints, I'm sure there's some other team that's looking at him, say, hey, he's young, he's got a big arm, and he could be a quarterback for our team.
That's a good point, Rick. You know, there'll be other scouts looking at him and his performance and seeing how he performs. This is a great opportunity for Winston, and obviously the other teams that are going to be looking at him as well, not only his own team, but, he's got a good, solid offense there behind him and with him in New Orleans. And obviously they're playoff contenders, and it's going to be very interesting. Like you said, which Winston are we going to see? Are we going to see the top performing Winston, or are we going to see the erratic one with the interceptions and the fumbles and the mistakes? So I'm not wishing that upon him, of course not. But it's going to be up to him to see. But you're right. He's given a great opportunity right now, and a great opportunity to perform with a very high level football team being the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, I'm pulling for him to do well. I really am. He's had a chance to. He went out there and decided to go to New Orleans and, gather himself, change the scenery. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with stepping back a little bit, doing some self-evaluation, take a little bit less money and look for the opportunity to come along. And now he has an opportunity to go out there and prove he's a top-tier quarterback for sure. And I hope Jameis pulls it off. I wouldn't mind seeing him be the eventual successor for Drew Brees when his career is up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really could. New Orleans is a good place. It's not a very big major media market, but they definitely embrace their heroes there. For crying out loud, for many years, they embraced Archie Manning when the team was horrible.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and that's all they had out there at that time. They didn't have the NBA at the time. They don't have a professional baseball team. Now they got the Pelicans. They have the Saints. So, I mean, they really do love them. And I remember the whole community embracing the team when they had Hurricane Katrina. I mean, and not only did the whole community embrace them, but pretty much the whole entire country embraced them.
Yes, very true.
Yes, Archie Manning, Hurricane Katrina. I've been to New Orleans many, many times. Went there for a Final Four, covered the Lions there on numerous occasions, went to the New Orleans Bowl. So I'm very familiar with the area. And again, more power to them. Go get him, Jameis. Pulling for you here on this end. All right, we'll talk about a city that George Eichorn and I have both been in, Indianapolis. NCAA is in talks with Indianapolis to host the entire March Madness tourney. I took George Eichorn there, and we saw the Indianapolis 500, got it off our bucket list. I've been to 2 500s. So, Rick, you're in basketball country out in North Carolina. What are your thoughts about an NCAA in talks to host an entire March Madness tournament in Indianapolis, the Hoosier area?
Well, if they're going to have one there, it's definitely going to be in Hoosier Town in Indianapolis. I think it'd be a great place, a great city, and I love Indiana. I think it's a great state, and I think my only concern is if it's going to be safe. With COVID going around, I mean, will they be able to have games? Hopefully they will. Hopefully, with this whole vaccine coming out, hopefully soon. I just cross my fingers that we can get back to some type of normalcy, and we can undo the mask and the social distancing and just go back where we can just watch a game. So I think it's a great place to have the March Madness, Indiana Hoosiers. It's a great place. So and the only concern I have is if it will be safe, and hopefully we can combat COVID and go back to some type of normalcy.
Yeah, but it's a lot of teams and a lot of players that they're going to house. I mean, we're not talking about just even the NBA was a lot. I know that, but what I'm saying is, you got 64 teams or whatever in the field. You got a lot of teams and a lot of players and personnel there. That's going to be a tremendous responsibility of the hotels and the motels and all that are going to house all this. It's quite a bit to handle. Personally, I'm disappointed because Detroit gets shafted again. We're supposed to host rounds 1 and 2 at Little Caesars Arena next March, 2021. So we're going to lose it. We're going to lose all that revenue here in Detroit, as are the other cities that we're going to host it if they do decide to go to Indianapolis. All those first and second round cities, as well as the regional finals, those cities are all going to lose their revenue again. And again, it's unfortunate because of COVID and what's going on. But I feel bad for the towns like Detroit, like I said, that were already slated to host those early round games, or like I said, even the regionals. But, I agree with you, Scott and Rick. I mean, if they're going to go anywhere, Indianapolis is very appropriate. It's kind of like the amateur capital of the United States. I look at it. NCAA is very favorable to Indianapolis. They have been for a long, long time. And if anybody knows how to pull it together, I'm sure that city knows how to do it, having been there before.
Well, Indianapolis, where the NCAA headquarters is, number one. Number two, at least unlike a lot of bubbles that you've had, it's a single elimination tournament. So when teams drop off, they drop off. So it's not like you're going to be in a bubble. So you have 68 teams there, and then all of a sudden, single elimination, you get it done pretty quickly. But the NCAA cannot afford to lose a tournament 2 years in a row. They can't do it. It's bad that they had to deal with it last year, but to do it 2 years in a row, God, the financial implications would just be off the charts. They really, really would. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the cities that will lose those games, but the NCAA will find a way to make it up to them, I'm sure. Right now, they're just hoping to be able to crown a champion this year, unlike everything that's going on this year. So I think they could pull off the bubble format, and Indianapolis appears to be the most logical place to do it. They're housing big events right and left, so I don't think there's any problem with hotel accommodations there as well. So they're talked about just about every major event out there. So more power to them. I think if any area can do it, Indianapolis can. Well, think about it. They house the Indianapolis 500. That's a big event in its own right. Think about all the hotels that it takes to get to the Indy 500 hours away.
Yep, absolutely, Scott. We've been there, we've done that, we know. And you're right. The NCAA cannot afford to lose this premier marquee event again. There's no question about that. All the money they lost, all the money that their broadcast partners, CBS and TBS, TNT, lost. It's such a great event. The American sporting life is just consumed with March Madness, and I agree with you. You don't want to lose it again.
Nope, not at all. All right, final topic of the night. Ron Rivera says that Alex Smith, 36 years of age, could possibly be Washington's long-term answer at quarterback. 30-27 loss to the Lions. Smith went ahead and rallied the team back from 21-point deficit, threw for 390 yards against a Matt Patricia defense. Then again, we've seen that story too many times. The only thing that saved the Lions in this football game was Matt Prater's 59-yard field goal as time expired. Well, the Lions build up a pretty good lead, 21 points. Matthew Stafford's on a roll early, okay. And here we go back to that old theme here, where the Lions are holding on. Can you imagine? First of all, you can only imagine if they had lost this football game to Washington, how bad things were going to be. I still don't think Matt Patricia's going to survive after this year anyways. I got to believe it's getting worse up there, George. But let's talk about Alex Smith first.
Yeah, and he had a career game against the Lions. You're right, Scott. The Lions sat on the lead, a 21-point lead, and they actually did blow it. I mean, it became a tie game. And I tell you what, Alex looked really good. He really good. He wasn't so great in the first part of the game, but boy, oh boy, he really came on. I know he piled up the numbers, but he looked really good. I was so glad to see that kid has battled back. He's not a kid anymore, of course, but from the injuries that he suffered and the rehabilitation that he's gone through, whether he can sustain that week in and week out, I don't know, but he had a hell of a performance and almost upset the Lions in their first Lions win. Imagine this, their first win at home in a year. That's how bad this Lions team is, like you said, Scott, under Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn.
Yeah, Rick, that's sad stuff, isn't it?
What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, Matt Patricia's gone. I don't see him hanging around. He never should have been hired in the first place. I don't know why the Lions got rid of Jim Caldwell after a 9-7 season. That's ridiculous. And of course they drank the Bill Belichick Kool-Aid, of all these assistant coaches. I mean, Josh McDaniel. I thought Bill O'Brien was the best of the best, and look where he's at now. He's unemployed. Flores looks great in Miami, and I mean, who can forget the whole mess with Charlie Weiss in Notre Dame? So, I mean, it's just, it's just like with Nick Saban, they drink the Nick Saban Kool-Aid as well. Scott Pruitt's doing a terrible job at Tennessee. So it is what it is. They never should have hired him. I didn't like the hire from the beginning. I'm like, how in the world can he get rid of a coach that goes 9-7? But that's the Lions story. But for Alex Smith, to me, not only is he comeback player of the year, he's comeback player of the decade. I mean, his story is amazing. I saw it on ESPN. Not only did he sustain a broken leg, he almost died. They almost had to amputate his leg. He had blood poisoning. He almost died, and his injury was so bad that he had to go to a military hospital because they said that his injury looked like him stepping on a landmine, like it exploded. That's how bad it was. And for him to not only still be alive, but to walk, but to play football. It's an amazing, amazing story. To me, he's comeback player of the decade. So I'm rooting for Alex Smith.
Yeah, I am too. In fact, for that matter, I'm actually rooting for Ron Rivera, a cancer survivor. I mean, Ron Rivera's had a tough year. What he's had to do with the Washington football team is unbelievable. He's number one trying to change a culture organization, which has had to change that nickname and get rid of the old one. And then he's, his starting quarterback's Alex Smith. So you have two inspirations on one team between Rivera and Smith, and they're taking their lumps. So 2 wins, 7 losses. I think they're probably going to move on from Dwayne Haskins because that wasn't Rivera's guy. But Alex Smith's story is just too surreal. It really is.
Yeah.
It's like Kim Ing's story. It's just inspirational. It's just like breaking those walls down. Like nobody thought Alex Smith would come back. Everyone compared him to Joe Theismann, which was very, very similar. And it was actually a lot more serious. It wasn't just a broken leg. The man almost died. And for him to not only still be alive, but to play football and be competitive, it's amazing. I really was rooting for Alex Smith, whether he could come back. It was just, can he come back and play great football? And he looked really, really good for a guy who hasn't played a game in 3 years.
Yeah, amazingly enough. Yeah. You're talking about an organization that lost Joe Theismann to a serious injury. And if Theismann had today's medicine, he probably could have played again. But I think Joe was smart when he did get out. If you're going to get injured by Lawrence Taylor on football, you're going to go out, you might as well go out to LT. But back to Smith for a moment. His story is just
a very, very great story. Like you said, guys, it's going to be up and down. It's already a down year for Washington, but this is a big, bright sign of perhaps a hope at the end of the rainbow. And basically, I think that this kid he's not a kid anymore, but he's got so much moxie. He's just really dedicated to making sure that he puts his best performance. He lays it all out there, doesn't he? He laid it all out there against the Lions and darn near beat them. Like you said, Scott, if it wasn't for Matt Prater's 59-yard field goal, when Matt Prater has been missing those kind of field goals, or even less than that, in that 45 to 50-some yard range, he's had not a good year, Matt Prater, so that was kind of out of nowhere where he was able to hit that one and save the Lions behind for one more Sunday.
Yeah, well, he did. But you know what? I got to tell you, in recent years, Matt Prater has been one of the finer kickers in the league. If you think about what the Jacksonville Jaguars are going through right now, they're on their sixth kicker. You know, the sixth kicker.
Oh,
And
my.
when the Lions went from, what was it, Jason Hansen, they seem to have pretty good kickers.
Eddie Murray. Yeah, you look back. You're
Right.
right, Scott. Arrow Man, when we were real young,
Right.
a guy named Arrow Man, and then you transition to an Eddie Murray, and then to a Jason Hansen, to a Matt Prater. The Lions, that's one thing. You're right, Scott. They've had a good history of place kickers.
Yeah, I'll never forget when Benny Ricardo held out.
Oh, yeah.
Job, too. And then, but the problem is the Lions have so many good kickers, that means they can't put it in the end zone.
Right.
But Matt Prater, though, I don't play fantasy this year, but I would never be embarrassed to put Matt Prater on my fantasy team. And when I did play it, I was always looking for Matt Prater. He's still a heck of a kicker. He runs into a little funk one, but there are other teams that have far worse conditions kicker-wise. So let me ask you, George, what are people saying about Matt Patricia now? Are they still hard? Are they really still anxious to get rid of him?
I think most people are, the talk shows in town and a lot of the columnists. I think most of them, it's kind of a situation where really, how do we read the mind of Sheila Ford Hemp, who's the new owner of the team, obviously the daughter of the former owner, Martha Firestone Ford, and the late William Clay Ford. Their daughter now runs the team. And the thing is that a lot of people are thinking that if they stay in contention, or let's say they do make a wild card, that's probably going to save both of their necks. If they can, I'm not sure if she'll keep them if they come close, but they definitely qualify. Most guys in town and ladies on the airwaves say that they'll probably keep Patricia and Quinn. So you find yourself in a situation, if you're a Lion fan, which is sad, is that you're almost rooting for them not to succeed because they want to get rid of these guys so bad. So many fans do.
Rick?
What do you think, Rick, in a situation like that? Have you seen that, where teams and their fans turn on the coach in such a way?
Yeah, I mean, it happens sometimes, you see it with other teams where they're so unhappy with the coaches, or look at Washington. They've been so unhappy with Daniel Snyder. They've been begging for him, or James Nolan. They've been begging for him to please sell the team because you're awful. So you've seen it with head coach. I've seen it with owners. So, and like I said, I did not like the Matt Patricia hire at all. They should have kept Jim Caldwell. I'm not really surprised because of the track history of Bill Belichick's coaches, how they do as head coaches. They might be great assistant coaches, but as head coaches, their track record is not very good. So I think it all depends how much he has left on his contract. If he's on his last year, going next year, then they'll probably keep him and he can be a lame duck coach. Or she might just say, you know what, I'm a clean house and get rid of Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia and, Eric Bieniemy's out there. You have Marvin Lewis out there. You got some great coaches out there who want to come back to the game. So, it's going to be up to her to see what happens. But I'll be surprised if Matt Patricia is back. Even if he does make the playoffs, which I don't think he will. Even if they do come close, I think he's gone.
Well, I don't have the Lions schedule in front of me, George. Why don't you dig it up right now if you can? But the December slate, to me, could be very, very difficult. So I think a lot of those decisions will probably be made for us anyways.
Well, yeah, they got an easy schedule. Of course, they got Carolina Panthers followed by the Houston Texans on Thanksgiving Day. So a lot of fans are thinking that the Lions are going to win those two games. But then it gets tough after that. You're right. I mean, they got a tougher schedule the rest of the way. I'm trying to pull it up right now, but after the Panthers and the Texans, the Lions will then play. Let's see here. Well, they got the Packers at home. The Packers are. I'm sorry. They're at the Bears. Their first game of December is at Chicago. Now, Chicago, we know, has been fluttering lately. And then they got the Packers at home on the 13th. And then the 20th, they got the Titans on the road, followed by the Buccaneers coming to the Ford Field on the 27th. And they close the season with the Vikings also at home. So the Lions are loaded with a lot of home games. I just realized that, starting with, Thanksgiving Day. But I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really difficult. I agree with you, Rick. I don't see them making the playoffs unless the commissioner and the owners agree to this expanded field. If they go to 16 teams or something, they would have a better shot then. But I heard at the New York Times today, guys, said gave the Lions a 9% chance to make the playoffs. The New York Times sports department today. That's their betting odds are for the Lions to make the playoffs as a wild card. 9%. That means a 91% chance they won't make it.
And what that means, that could be the end of Matt Patricia, which everybody's kind of striving for anyway. So,
yeah.
So, but meanwhile, on a night here on the Sports Exchange, where the theme of this broadcast will be inspirational stories, it really is. I could lump Ron Rivera in and Alex into that. But let's not kid ourselves. I think Drew Brees and Jameis Winston would fall into that category. But tonight, the night belongs to Kim Ng.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Kim. You shattered that barrier. You're doing it for all the females that are involved in sports from all the organizations. There are some outstanding women out there in professional sports, and you've climbed the highest ladder so far. That is fantastic. Of course, we've had female owners for a long time. Of course, we're not dissing them at all. It's very important to have females as owners of teams as well. But Kim, great job being the new GM of the Miami Marlins.
Well, Jeannie Buss, as Rick alluded to earlier tonight, won a championship with the Lakers.
Don't forget Georgia Frontera. Remember, I saw her win with Dick Vermeil, Scott, when I covered the Super Bowl in Atlanta.
There you go. Glad you brought the game out there.
Didn't Marchot win a World Series with the Reds?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, she did.
I think she did.
She's a female owner.
The infamous Marchot.
Not a very popular one, but she
did
nonetheless. She alienated a few people in her days.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
But nevertheless, to stay with the recurring theme about females, Marchot is a championship owner. And I'm glad you brought up Georgia Frontier, George. She took over for her late husband, Carol Rosenblum, and they were able to pull a championship. But Jeannie Buss looks like she's smelling like a rose with what she did with the Lakers, that's for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Really great broadcast tonight. So, Rick, why don't you go ahead and lead off and let people know how they get a hold of you. But before you do that, I want to let everybody know here on the Sports Exchange that Rick Curti does a marvelous job helping us promote all the broadcasts as well as all the content-related material that we have. And we're so grateful for Rick Curti and his contributions promoting content and, of course, appearing on different broadcasts as well. So you talk about a hybrid individual. Rick Curti is definitely as hybrid as they get. Good job, Rick. Go ahead, take over.
Well, thank you, Scott. My website you can contact me on is www.charlottebats.com. My email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB and also on Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti, Curti. I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball and also on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. And you can contact me on any of those social media websites.
Go ahead, George.
Okay. You can reach me on Twitter at DSBA2. You can reach me on Yahoo at Eichorn@yahoo.com. I authored a book called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air for $20. It's a great book. You're going to enjoy it. The history of Michigan and Detroit sports broadcasters, from Ernie Harwell and Ty Tyson to Ray Lane and Bruce Martin and Bud Lynch. And just a great list of guys in that book. Scott, my friend here, Scott Morganroth, is featured in the book with Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors. Some great pictures of Scott. And the book's available with a link from my profile at the South Florida Tribune website. you can link right to the book to purchase a copy of it. So thank you very much.
And George Eichorn and I have been at this for 41 years. My goodness, folks, 41 years, a long time. You know, it changes the hair, the waistline, but the chemistry and the ability to work with you, George, is great. And of course, I'll be seeing you in about a week or so. But meanwhile, in terms of social media, folks, you can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. That's at Tribune South. Facebook and Instagram, South Florida Tribune. YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. I'll give you 6 reasons why you should subscribe to it for free. You have the Sports Exchange, No Limits, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, Real and the Rare, Fantasy Football, South Florida Tribune Podcast. 6 great broadcasts by subscribing to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. We have the Motor City Monitor, where we do like to promote entities from my hometown as well, the Motor City Monitor. George Eichorn and I obviously are, we do a lot back in our hometown. But also we have our media distribution partners on there. We have our columnists. And more importantly, we have all of our broadcasts on there as well. So go to www.southfloridatribune.com. Candy Ebling does a wonderful job keeping the site together, coordinating the whole thing, and she does a wonderful job keeping the broadcast up. So kudos to Candy. She's the pulse of the operations of this, of everything that we do around here. Our email address is southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You can catch up with me on LinkedIn, Scott Morganroth. And if you want to listen to the audio version of the broadcast, you can do so at Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So, folks, well, glad you can join us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. Rick Curti, why don't you go out there and give the COVID message, please?
Well, unfortunately, guys, COVID's not getting any better. It's actually gotten a lot worse. It's in every state. Here in North Carolina, it's bad. Florida, Michigan, wherever you're at, it's just surging out of control, crazy. All I can strongly urge everyone to do is please wear a mask. Please sanitize your hands, social distance. Please avoid the bars, avoid the nightclubs, avoid all that craziness where there's so many people around. I know people are getting tired of it, that whole COVID fatigue. I know I'm feeling it as well. But it really is a matter of life or death. And please use common sense, wear a mask, not only to protect yourself, but to protect everyone around you. And just use some common sense. And we'll defeat this. This is a pandemic that we haven't seen in 100 years and probably won't ever see it again in our lifetime. Hopefully not. Just wear a mask, stay safe. And, like Dr. Fauci said, the cavalry's coming, and hopefully we'll be getting that vaccine very soon.
And I'll be on my way to Michigan via automobile. And, I'm going there to see my mom. She's obviously in terminally ill right now. It's very difficult. But I do know that the state of Michigan has put out a 3-week order that you're not allowed to go into restaurants. I know that you can get carryouts, but you can't do anything else. But to me, the restaurants are the least of my concern. I have a bigger pressing issue. That's my mom. So we're looking forward to seeing George when we get there. Been great to have the two of you on tonight. Really nice show, very inspirational show, talking about some very inspirational people. So on behalf of Rick Curti and George Eichorn, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. I'll look at it this way: the Sports Exchange of old and the Sports Exchange of new, with Rick Curti being new, Eichorn being old and new, and me, I'm there for all of it. So who the heck cares? I'm just a regular at this point. So anyway, thank you very much again, everybody, for joining us, and we look forward to the next edition of the Sports Exchange. God bless, be safe. Catch you on the next time. Bye-bye.